Um, I really try to stay out of this little bickering and the lies that have been going back and forth about the Tulsi's plans and what she said and what Bernie's plans. Like, I've been trying to educate the masses who follow various journalists and follow the presidential campaigns, because the last thing I want, of course, is for the voters and the constituency to be ignorant on a particular issue, especially when it's important as universal health care. But I have been trying to ignore the domesticity that I've been seeing spread. I've been trying to ignore the vitriol and the lies that I have been seeing spread across the internet. But Mike Figueredo, that's a special one right there. That's a special one right there. And I'm just going to say this before I get started. There are a lot of people that come. Obviously, I endorse Tulsi, of course. She's the best candidate for the job. You can make an argument that Bernie has the quote unquote best chance of winning. But if you believe that Tulsi doesn't have a chance because she can be cheated, then your argument's thrown out the window, because they can easily cheat Bernie too, as I've said time and time again. I was there. He had the numbers before. Doesn't matter. If we don't address election rigging, then our debates are pointless anyway. So, yeah, I believe that Tulsi is the best person to run the country. The president's job, it's like 70% foreign policy. She's the only one who understands foreign policy at the root foundational level. And so, of course, shouldn't be a secret to anybody that I endorse Tulsi. Now, there are a lot of people who have obviously endorsed Bernie. And those same people like to walk around pretending like they legitimately critique Bernie. Like they don't hold Tulsi to a double standard. Hell, I mean, I've critiqued both of them. But I've actually critiqued Tulsi, not, I wouldn't say harsher, but more meticulously than I've critiqued Bernie. Because I honestly, for me personally, I expect more out of Tulsi on certain issues, especially regarding foreign policy. But what I have seen lately, the vitriol espoused towards her, has been nothing short of disgusting. And it is because of this. It's like people have uplifted Bernie to be a deity. And as much as I love Bernie, he is not a deity. He is not perfect. He has a lot of shortcomings. And he is not the damn end all be all of Medicare for all. He's not. And I'm going to explain why in a second. But first, I want to address what Mike Figueredo had to say about Tulsi's plan. Mike said that Tulsi wants public option, and he kind of backtracked and he said, well, then she wants private option. But I'm pretty sure this sounds like public option. That's what he said. Here's the problem, Mike. And I would love to know if you know something different than I do. Mike, how are you going into such a detailed description of Tulsi Gabbard's single-payer healthcare plan when you haven't seen Tulsi Gabbard's single-payer healthcare plan? Mike, how are you going into so much detail about a bill that hasn't been released, a plan that hasn't been released, framework that has not been released, quite frankly, on an issue that you know not a damn thing about? Very clearly, by the way. You don't know the intricacies of the system. You don't know where the problems start, where they end, what the differences are between our country and others. Like, you don't know. What's even worse about this, by the way, is that not only does he lie about Tulsi's plan, because he literally doesn't know. He based it off of one word choice, which we'll get to in a second. But he also lied about Bernie's plan in the middle of the video, trying to attack Tulsi's. Based off of what? Well, it's pretty demonstrative that he's basing everything he believes from Bernie's plans off of what Bernie says. And he's basing everything he believes about Tulsi's plan based off of the one word Tulsi said. It's not a good look. So, because somebody has to be a responsible journalist, somebody, I actually decided to contact the campaign. Gasp! I know some people still do that. And because I wanted to know the general framework that they plan on introducing. Now, as you know, Tulsi isn't a plan type of person. She puts out bills, whether it be election integrity, whether the only reason she has an anti-corruption plan, but it's going to be in a bill, so she hasn't finished introducing it yet. No more presidential wars, fairness in media, bill. That's what she does. So she hasn't introduced the bill yet. But I did do the responsible thing and ask, hey, what is your plan? Like, what is the general framework? And it's single payer healthcare. Okay? It's everybody, what they hope to achieve is everybody paying into the system. And if you want, as of right now, if you want healthcare through your union, or if you want to keep it for whatever reason, if you want healthcare through your employer, if you want to keep that for whatever reason, or if you have healthcare, like for example, I have TRICARE, which is through my previous employer, but it's military insurance. I would be able to keep that under her plan. That would be a private option. Now, here's where people keep lying. And I don't know how else to say this, but unless they talk to the campaign and were told something different, they're lying about how her plan will work because, well, I'm the only one, to my knowledge, that's talked to them. Because it's single payer. It's not a buy-in. That's public option. A public option is when you opt in to the Medicare for all, the single payer, the universal health care, whatever you want to call it. That's a public option. You have to opt in. Now, some would even make the argument that a public option you also have to opt out of, or you have the ability to quote unquote opt out of. That's an argument I would entertain, actually. Here's the thing. According to the campaigns, what they hope to achieve, because they don't have a bill out yet, can't stress this enough. What they hope to achieve is that everybody pays across the board, regardless of whether or not you intend to use it. You get what I'm saying? Regardless of whether or not you intend to use it. Some people say, that's not a thing. Who would do that? Why would we pay? That's a thing right now. You're aware of that, right? I know some of you might not be, but once again, out of everyone claiming to be experts, in universal health care, single payer health insurance, whatever, who here has worked in private or in the health insurance industry? Oh, it's me. There are people out there who have maybe worked in the medical industry. I've worked in the literal health insurance industry. It's grueling. To get certified is a grueling task. It's one of the hardest tests you could take. So it's already a thing. Right now, does Medicare and Medicaid come out of your paycheck? Yes. Every single person in this country who has gets taxes taken out, Medicaid and Medicare are taken out of their check. My grandfather and my grandmother, they do not use Medicare. They do not use Medicaid. My grandfather is retired. He's retired from the Air Force. And so TRICARE pays part of his medical bills. The other part of his medical bill is paid through by Kaiser. However, my grandfather does still work. My grandfather still pays Medicare and Medicaid, although he does not use it. He can't just call somebody and be like, no, I don't want to pay. It's not how it works. Just like the MTA payroll tax in New York. Does everybody use the Metro? No. Most people on Long Island complain about the MTA payroll tax because they don't use it. However, because it is a quote unquote public good, it literally makes the city, like it helps the city to survive. It's like part of the social contract. You just have to pay into it. It's part of the price you pay living in New York City. Bernie's plan would be no different. You have to pay into it, no matter what. Now, I'm going to explain to you the benefits of this particular, of Tulsi's version, at least the framework that they're hoping to achieve. But first, I want to play for you a little clip. Because Mike puts his foot in his mouth multiple times, but he seriously puts his foot in his mouth a great deal. And I want to show you all what I'm talking about. Give me a second. Let me put this up.
Has adopted the rhetoric of someone like Pete Buttigieg, where she's saying, no, by having this private option, I'm actually increasing choice, because rather than just having everyone automatically be enrolled on this government program.
So right there. What do you mean rather than having everybody automatically enroll? Where'd you get that from, Mike? Where did you get that from? You just made that up. Everybody will be automatically enrolled, Mike. You know how I know? Because once again, I asked the campaign. So what the fuck are you talking about, Mike? You just lied. You literally lied with no shame. That is journalistic malpractice, bruh. You didn't even try. Like, okay, maybe I'm going off of what I think from what it sounded like, because I reached out to the campaign and they didn't get back to me. No, you just lied. You lied.
And then there's no opt-in. If they want to, if they're not satisfied with the comprehensive benefits offered by Medicare for All, they can go buy private insurance from Aetna. Except the problem with this is, under the guise of increasing choice, in practice, a policy like this will actually facilitate less choices. Now, how is that going to be the case? Well, picture this. Under single payer, if I wanted to see a doctor in Portland, John Smith, I know that I would just have to call and make an appointment with John Smith. Although, if we have a multi-payer system, if there's a private option introduced, well, then it's not going to be so easy. Maybe I call John Smith and I say, Dr. Smith, I want to, set up an appointment with you. When are you available? Well, maybe John Smith says, actually, Michael, we only accept private insurance. Well, then that's reducing my choice as an American. I can't just see the doctor that I want to see. I have to have private insurance to see that doctor.
Mike, you sound really upset by that reality that you just said about private option. And you might have something there, Mike. You might have something there. And I really want to know if you're going to keep that same energy. And here's why. So here's what we're going to do. Because I'm kind of like tired of having to explain stuff to people and like, oh, it's in the bill, it's in the bill, it's in the bill. So we're going to actually have the bill pulled up so nobody's going to question what's in it. Because once again, I'm tired of just the equivocation and the lies that are being put out because people just believe what they're told rather than reading the quote unquote damn bill. Like it's old. I'm just exhausted. It's dangerous, to be quite honest with you. So here's what we're gonna do, Mike. Because that scenario, that apocalyptic scenario that you just talked about, that you swear applies to Tulsi's bill, where that problem would absolutely arise without question, according to you. Let's look up private contractors in Senate Bill 1129, 2019-2020, Medicare for All Act. The use of private contracts. Section 303, the use of private contracts. Subject to the provisions of this subsection, nothing in this act, I'm up here, people, in case you're looking, right here. Nothing in this act shall prohibit an institutional or individual provider from entering into a private contract with an enrolled individual for any item of service, for which no claim of payment to be made under this act. Hold on. So if a single payer isn't paying it, wouldn't that mean another payer has to pay it, Mike? And if another payer has to pay it, wouldn't that make it a multi-payer system that you've seemingly had no problem with whatsoever? And this is a description of a bill, a description that you assigned to Tulsi's legislation that she's never said was in it. Because nobody said that Tulsi is allowing an individual person to opt out of her single payer plan. You just said that. Nobody else. She's been very clear. Every person will have quality coverage. However, they can opt in to a private plan. That does not forego your responsibility to pay into your single payer plan. It's just like Social Security, just like Medicare, just like Medicaid. FICA. Everybody, you paying a FICA? Everybody pays in the FICA. You get a choice whether or not you want to pay in the FICA. You even know what FICA is? No. But you just gonna pay for it, ain't you? Because you got to. It comes out automatically. Same thing. Doesn't matter if you're using it. Let's continue. No reimbursement under this act directly or on a capitated basis, and receives no amount for such items or services from an organization which receives reimbursement for such items or service under this act. Hold up, Mike, this sounds like Bernie's trying to limit your options, because the facilities can opt out and do private. Hold up. But Mike, if any organization or institution receives or conducts a service under a private contract, which are allowed, by the way, and by the way, no reimbursements, because it said no reimbursements can be paid. That's all it's saying. And you know why? Because under Bernie's bill, individuals can't opt out, but medical providers can. But you missed that little detail, didn't you? Oh, but it gets better. Do you know what happens when medical providers can opt out, but the individuals paying into the system cannot? Go ahead, Mike, because you know it all. Take a guess. I know you're watching. Mike, you end up with a shortage of doctors. Oh, by the way, Mike, just in case you were curious, we already have a shortage of doctors right now. Now, there's a whole convoluted reason as to why that is. There's a whole convoluted reason, but the moral of the story is we already have a shortage of doctors. Now, if Medicare for All, Bernie's specific plan gets passed, then what happens next? Well, basically 700 million Americans all of a sudden are going to the same facilities where we have a shortage of doctors right now. Right now. And you can't deny any of them. Oh yeah, you can if you allow them to opt out or allow the facility to opt out. And so if the facility, you think the facility would rather do what? I'm already overworked. I'm already overpaid. I'm already overworked. I'm already overpaid. The market is already oversaturated. Right here. American medicine is already experiencing a devastating crisis within its workforce. In a recent Medscape survey, 44% of American physicians reported feeling burned out, 15% feeling depressed, and 14% reported thoughts of suicide. Between 300 and 400 doctors kill themselves every year, a rate more than double that of the general population, and the crisis is getting worse. Physician burnout has serious consequences for patients, providers, and the medical system at large. A 2018 study found that physicians who reported at least one symptom of burnout were more than twice as likely to report having committed a serious medical error within the preceding 3 months. Burned out physicians are more likely to suffer from anxiety, depression, and exhaustion. A recent study estimated that burnout costs the American healthcare system about $4.6 billion a year. Residents are most vulnerable to burnout. They work brutal hours, get insufficient sleep, and lack control over their schedules. It is little surprise that nearly 30% of residents experience depression or depressive symptoms. Mike, so if I'm a doctor and I run my own private practice, let's just say the doctor's name is John Smith, since that's the name you decide to choose. And under Bernie's plan, I can opt out? Be overworked and potentially underpaid, or go to a private insurer under Bernie's plan, not Tulsi's, by the way. This is Bernie's plan. Or go to a private insurer, be paid the same as I was before, but only deal with those customers, which would make my hours less, make me less exhausted, keep my pockets filled, reduce the wait time for my patients. Now, hold up. That's interesting, because I didn't hear you talk about that in your video, because you're just so concerned about the patients being able to opt out. You didn't think, hold on, can the providers opt out of the network? Yes, they can. Yes, under Bernie's bill. They have to be reimbursed to somebody. Oh, but it gets better. So let's look at Bernie's bill. Because Mike said that what Tulsi is talking about is not single payer. And according to Mike, that is why he is so upset, people. That's why he's so upset, and only Bernie's bill would do. Because Bernie's Medicare for All bill is truly single payer. If Bernie said it's single payer, then it must be single payer. So let's check out. So we already got two different type of payments set up already in this bill. So where are we at? There we go. Right here, people. What does it say? What does it say? Once again, I'm not speaking to people who don't want to go look up facts anymore when it comes to healthcare. I'm gonna let y'all read it now, because I'm just like I said, I'm tired of it. I'm tired of the sycophantic behavior. If my favorite person said it, then it must be true. These people are not looking out for your best interest. They're looking out for their favorite candidate. Damn the facts. And they will fucking project and project and project. Oh, there are Tulsi sycophants for wanting to wait until she comes out with her plan. And their immediate excuse is because there's only one Medicare for all, which is also a lie. There are definitely two different versions. And Jaya Powell's is better, which we'll get into in a second. So we're already up to two different payers. in this system that Mike is calling single payer and has had absolutely no problems with, has had no critiques with, and has never once did a 15, 20-minute video attacking. Because we're already down to 2, so he's already a liar. Let's continue. Guaranteed issue of Medigap policy. Hold up, what you mean Medigap policies? It says guaranteed issue for all Medigap eligible Medicare beneficiaries, notwithstanding. So in other words, despite paragraphs 2A and 2D of subsection S or any other provision of this section on or after the date of enactment of this subsection, the issuer of a Medicare supplemental policy may not deny or condition the issuance of effect or effectiveness of a Medicare supplemental policy or discriminate in the pricing of that policy because of the health status, claims experience, receipt of health care, or medical condition, and in other words, no preconditions can disqualify you. Now, here's where that gets interesting. Mike, I thought that you said this is a single payer system and that there's no duplicative coverage under any circumstance, and private insurance is totally not necessary, except when I go, and I already know the answer to this question, but like I said, I'm not just going to I'm not going to talk anymore. I'm just let the damn screen talk for y'all. Medigap is extra health insurance that you buy from a private company to pay with healthcare costs not covered by original Medicare. And there's a lot. Now, luckily, Bernie's bill claims that there's going to be no co-payments, no deductibles, and to the traveling outside well, actually, I don't think that has anything to do with Bernie's bill. Traveling outside of the U.S. is a whole different situation. Now, here's a problem. Medigap is private. It's private. And it doesn't cover long-term care. Okay? So we're going to do some more research in front of everybody. Because you pay a monthly premium. You pay a monthly premium for Medigap. Medigap policy covers only one person. If you and your spouse both want a Medigap policy, you each need to buy one. Medigap policies are only available to people who already have Medicare Part A, which helps pay for hospital services, and Medicare Part B, which covers costs for doctor services. People who have Medicare Advantage, that's a whole different situation. Now, Medigap plans cover different things in different areas. Here's why. He even talks about it. Medicare Personal Plan Finder, or contact your state's Department of Insurance. I wonder why that is. Why would you need to? Oh, that's right. Because there's another payer. There's another payer. So we're 3 right now. That's Medigap, private insurance. And there's another payer. And that is Medicaid. We're going to look up some Medicaid. Now it says that coverage of institutional long-term services under Medicaid. A state plan for medical assistance shall provide for making medical assistance available for services that are institutional long-term care services in a manner consistent with this section, and no payment to a state shall be made under this title with respect to expenditures incurred by the state in providing medical assistance on or after such date for services that are not institutional long-term care services or other services which benefits are not paid for under Medicare for All in 2019 and which are furnished under state plan for medical assistance which provided for medical assistance for such services on September 1st, 2018. And it goes on to define institutional long-term care, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now, all those Bernie's plan although Bernie's plan does a very good job covering long-term services, it does not cover it 100%. That is why it is saying you have to spend money according to your state. It's going to be divvied up. So, and it says, matter of fact, let me see if I can go back to the Medicaid. It even says, if I'm not mistaken, that the secretary shall determine, I guess Secretary of Health, it says the secretary shall determine, give me a second, gotta find it. Oh, here you go, growth factor. So for each fiscal year, or portion of a fiscal year described in subparagraph A, the secretary shall, no later than September 1st of the fiscal year preceding such fiscal year or portion of a fiscal year, determine a growth factor for each state that takes into account X, Y, and Z, da 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 da. Now, why is that? Because Medicaid is largely paid for by the federal government. But if you know anything about Medicaid or our current healthcare situation, what is the main talking point you hear from basically everybody, one way or the other? We have to expand Medicaid in a given state to make Obamacare work more effectively. So in other words, in a place like New York, Obamacare works way better than it does in a place like Utah. Why? Because there isn't a political beef where New York is trying to undermine Obamacare because they don't like Obama. They're like, yeah, well, we have to make it look good. We have to make it work because, well, he's our president. And they have the money to do it. It's New York, let's be honest. A place like Utah not only does not have the resources to spend like a New York would, but they also probably don't like Obama at large. So why would they want, the politicians, why would they want to make Obama look good by having great health care? No, Obamacare sucks. We have to get rid of it because that's what their private insurance companies are paying them to do. The moral of the story is Medicaid is already paid for by two systems. One, the state. Two, federal government. So if your state won't cover something, although the federal government determines it should cover something, we don't really know what's going to happen. We could end up in the exact same situation we're in right now. Because what if the state doesn't cover something? And now your private insurance can't, under Bernie's plan, it can't quote unquote provide duplicative care, but it says duplicative care under the Medicare Act, under the Social Security Act, involving Medicare. So if it can't provide duplicative care under that act, and you can't get private insurance for it, but your state is refusing to pay for the care you were once entitled to because they're saying they can't afford it, maybe the federal government is determined they don't want to pay any more to that state for whatever reason. Like they said it in the bill. It's going to say, how is that going to get paid for? But the moral of the story is that's a lot of different payment systems. It's not single payer. And yet, I don't sense that same energy coming from Mike. You hear how confusing that shit is? It is confusing. Make no mistake about it. It's not an easy concept to understand, but that's the point. That's the point. It's not an easy concept to understand. We need a bunch of different plans from people who are not taking corporate money. Okay? We need that. Now, and we need to combine the best elements of those plans. So just so everybody's clear, right? We've established Bernie's plan not only has elements of private health insurance, but literally allows people to opt out of the network. Now, what Tulsi's plan would hope to achieve by having everyone pay into the system is that you have more people, everybody paying into the system. And because of that, if you're in a union, I think that's about 13 million people so far. If you're in a union, you can get a better plan through them, if you can. If you have TRICARE, roughly 10 to 12 million, that's already 24 million people right there. And if you have a great employee plan, however many, 15, 20, 30, 40 million people, you have a great employee plan. Guess what? All of a sudden, that's less of a burden on our system and our doctors, because now you're going through a private under Tulsi's plan, you'll be going to maybe a private clinic for your particular plan. Maybe they accept that union specifically, and they may take services or accept services from Medicare. However, guess what? If I'm getting paid X amount of money for special services to this particular union, I can now afford help. I can bring in an extra doctor to take on the load. And it's less of a financial burden on our system, because everybody's paying into that system no matter what, but they're also paying into this particular private insurance, and that's the service they're going to use, not the same services that everybody else, the other 700. I just gave you a whole bunch of statistics basically saying that doctors are tired, and they're not even seeing a quarter of the patients that they absolutely will be seeing when 700 million people are enrolled in the Medicare for All. So that's one of the benefits of Tulsi's plan, is it takes the burden off the system while making sure that the system is still funded correctly. Now we need to get to the deeper discussion involving Tulsi, this plan, Bernie's plan, job plan. Mike said, and he's not the only one that's expressed this sentiment. Everybody, I just want somebody I can trust to fight. I want people to understand something. I love Bernie, and I love the movement that he started. I love Tulsi. I love the movement, the anti-war movement, and this awakening that she's initiated on foreign policy. Neither of them are perfect. Neither of them. That includes Bernie. I cannot stress this enough. I don't want people they casually go on Twitter every now and then, and it'll say, oh, well, I said one time that Bernie should speak up, maybe one time, but that's no. I want to see the outrage that you have over a word coming from Tulsi's mouth. Because yes, Tulsi said the word choice. To be quite honest with you, she takes things so literal. I guarantee you she had no idea that people were going to freak out when she said it. She was like, what the hell? What's everybody tripping about? She literally means she doesn't think about she doesn't think about the framing and all that good stuff that a lot of people do. Like, she's not into that type of stuff. She's literally not into it. Like, you've seen her videos. She's very straightforward. She's not on Twitter every day trying to figure out how to code switch for progressives so they don't get triggered. So granted, it's okay if you wanted to question the choice. Like, hey man, you should probably change that wording. Got it. But Mike said in his video, I want somebody who is going to crack skulls when they get into the White House. Like, because he was insinuating that Bernie would and Tulsi wouldn't. Because she said the word choice and nothing, that's the only reason. Question. And as much as I love Bernie, we're going to keep it all the way real right now. Jayapal's bill came out first. Why did Bernie introduce a worse version of her bill? Because all that Medigap and Medicaid and the confusing part about single payer and multi-payer and all that good stuff, the two-tiered system that I was just explaining to you all, that Mike swears that Tulsi's bill is going to have, but Bernie's bill doesn't have. That's what he said. Jayapal's bill doesn't have any of that. It's single payer. It is single payer. You don't have to wonder whether or not your long-term services are going to be paid for in the Jaya Powell's bill. You don't have to wonder that because it's only one payer. But you know what? Well, here's what I said. I said, look, I said I'm not gonna tell y'all anymore. I'm gonna show you, okay? Can't spell. Jaya Powell, how Medicare for all bill. You see how many times I done searched this shit. So here we're gonna do. We're gonna go back to it. Let's go back to long-term coverage. Okay, ain't crazy. You see anything here talking about Medicaid? The only time it references the Social Security Act is literally to talk about the description of services. That's it. Coverage of long-term care. You're entitled to the following long-term care services and supports, and to have payment made by the secretary to an eligible provider for these services. There is no equivocation here on Jaya Powell's bill. And everybody keeps saying, oh, the only difference is the 2 and 4 year transitional period. That's a fucking lie. It's a lie. Look at the payment of benefits. Payment of benefits. In general, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Do you see anything from the Social Security Act here? Because there is no limitation to what you're going to be getting paid. Or what's going to be covered, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Payment. Oh, excuse me. Hold up. Let me go back to the wrong. I done showed y'all the wrong thing. Give me a second. Universal entitlement, comprehensive benefits. I'm gonna find it. Give me a second. Oh, okay. Here we go. So this is section 204. This is what I'm talking about. Coverage of institutional long-term care and services. Talks about Social Security Act, and the only thing that's amended is talk about the when your long-term care services can start after you being enrolled. So this is just saying it's going to be immediate, whatever. Hold on, I gotta find it. I want to show you exactly what I'm talking about. Also, I don't know if you noticed, but you see a lot of links in here, right? All these links are to the Social Security Act. Payment of benefits, all that good stuff. Some of these, to be fair, are amendments. So this one, for example, is amendment, but it's just, amending little time things and stuff like that. But a lot of these say, we're going to pay out benefits according to Social Security Act X, Y, and Z. Okay? So you go to Jaya Powell's bill. The only time that you see payments, the only time that you see links to the Social Security Act, amended, covering everything. Amended, 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 amended. In other words, there is no situation where anybody other than Medicare is paying for your services. So it's a big difference. It's a big difference. Pretending like it's not, I'm telling you, if you've been in a system, excuse me, my throat is dry. If you've ever been part of this system where you have to figure out what pays for what, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. You know exactly what I'm talking about. It's a big difference between having Medicaid pay for something, Medigap pay for something, going through a private contractor. Like, those are all three different things. So when we talk about, and I'm going to finish up here pretty soon. Bernie didn't even crack skulls to get this done. If Bernie worked with Kirsten Gillibrand on this bill. Do we not consider Kirsten Gillibrand a quote-unquote corporate Democrat anymore? Do we not? She yelled it from the rooftop during the debate, and I feel like I was the only one who raised an eyebrow when that happened. Maybe I was. I don't know. If Tulsi said, I'm working with Pete Buttigieg on my legislation, wouldn't all hell break loose? Out of curiosity? You want to talk about cracking skulls, Mike? Once again, I love Bernie, but Bernie does have his shortcomings. Cracking skulls, you mean like cracking open the DNC saying I'm not putting up with this bullshit and I'm leaving. I'm going to endorse Bernie Sanders. You mean cracking skulls like that? You mean cracking skulls like going to Standing Rock despite the security risks? Cracking skulls like that? You mean cracking skulls like the No More Presidential Wars Act or the Stop Arming Terrorists Act? Cracking skulls like restoring the Fairness Doctrine? Or cracking skulls like election integrity? Cracking skulls like the Off Act? Or cracking skulls like signing Jayapal's bill and not going anywhere near Medicare for America, which is a public option, which Tulsi had the option to vote for and endorse or co-sponsor, and she consciously decided not to because she is not for a public option. Bernie Sanders had a perfectly viable version of Medicare for all in the House, and he introduced a worse version of it in the Senate. That is not cracking skulls, Mike. He had the best he had the best climate change legislation ever introduced in any any House or Senate in history, with Tulsi Gabbard's Off Fossil Fuels Act, endorsed by 400 climate and environmental organizations, Mike, bro. He didn't co-introduce the Off Act in the House. And last time I checked, climate change is like one of those ride or die issues, right? Can't pretend. We can't half step on climate change. That's what we said. That's what we all agree on. And I'm sure we both agree there. So instead, he decided to take the marketing of the Green New Deal, the lackluster Green New Deal, by the way, which he couldn't even introduce an heir apparent in the Senate because AOC never even introduced a real bill in the House. But the Off Act is right there. Why wasn't he cracking skulls to back the Off Act? Why wasn't he cracking skull? Because we always say President Trump's a warmonger. Trump, TDS, impeach. Okay, so why didn't he make sure that there was an heir apparent of the No More Presidential Wars Act? Because that's what everybody says. Every good thing Bernie does, Tulsi better had co-sponsored it. She better had signed onto it. She better back it. But when Tulsi does something extravagant, No More Presidential Wars Act, Stop Arming Terrorists Act, Off Act. Question real quick, Mike. Cracking skulls, right? We're talking about cracking skulls. Tulsi introduced an election integrity bill. An election integrity bill that is possibly the best election integrity bill that I've seen in my lifetime. Bernie didn't say a word about that bill. However, you know what he did say a word about? Amy Klobuchar's bill. If Tulsi backed, let's say, Nancy Pelosi's election integrity bill over a election integrity bill, a good election integrity bill, if he were to introduce one, over Bernie's, how would you react? How would you react, Mike? I'm legitimately curious. Part of me probably knows the answer. If people attacked Bernie, went on an all-out tirade about Bernie because of his nonsensical equivocation on this election integrity legislation, how would you react? Because I've noticed that you ignore the fact that Bernie has been trying to, that Tulsi has been trying to establish the reality that we have a systemic issue with almost every issue that we want to deal with. Because Tulsi's bill, by the way, will probably be coupled with her anti-corruption legislation. Oh, by the way, Bernie did not co-sponsor or introduce the heir apparent of the move to amend bill to get big money out of politics in the Senate. Did you know who co-introduced the move to amend bill in the House? Tulsi. But I don't see that same energy towards celebrating Tulsi or critiquing Bernie in that regard. But mostly I don't see you like just getting out your seat and cheering. Because my question to you is, how do we know that under Bernie's bill, I just explained to everybody, private contracting, you can opt out of the Medicare for All network as a provider or a doctor. So if big money in politics is still a thing, Bernie isn't introducing any anti-corruption legislation, nor has he co-sponsored the legislation or introduced legislation to get big money out of politics. If they just go around bribing all the doctors, why would I stay in an overburdened Medicare for All single payer, or not even single payer, but an overburdened Medicare for All system? Why would I stay into that? That's stupid. They're gonna bribe all of them. Guess whose bill stops that from happening? At least makes a damn attempt to? Tulsi's. When we're talking about a fair assessment of Medicare for All in the media, guess whose bill makes sure that there would be parity if it were passed? Make sure that there would be parity when discussing Medicare for All in a real way to discuss both the positives and the negatives. Tulsi's. You want Bernie to be covered fairly, so do I. Tulsi's bill with the fairness doctrine, make sure it happens, but you're too busy pretending that Bernie is Jesus to look at your allies and see what they have been doing. You don't even realize that the things that Tulsi are doing, like if she doesn't do these things, if these things don't get passed, Bernie doesn't get shit done. Bernie's bills become corrupted. Think of California. California always starts off with great ideas. They really do. Guess what happens though? In the process, money corrupts great ideas. And nobody wants to deal with the systemic issues that money, that corruption, that election integrity have caused. You want to talk about cracking skulls. Mike, literally, Tulsi is in the business of cracking skulls. She's in the U.S. Army. And she's already shown she's more than willing to crack a skull or two politically. I'm not saying that Bernie isn't. He absolutely is. I honestly cannot wait to see this bully pulpit he's going to go on when he gets into office, if he gets into office. But how are you going to see anything he's ever done passed? You can bully pulpit all you want to, bruh. I just got to press a button and the machine says what I want it to say, Mike, because that's what election rigging is. All I have to do is write a check, and that provider will opt out of Medicare for all, Mike, because that's what lobbying does. The Medicare for all legislation that you're talking about doesn't take care of any of these issues, and Bernie refuses to address it. In fact, the bill that he's backing from Amy Klobuchar makes election integrity worse. And you don't care. If Tulsi was doing some of the things that Bernie has been doing, you would be tearing her apart, bruh. And not only you. If people lied the same way about Bernie as you do about Tulsi, you would be tearing them apart. But you're disingenuous. You project everybody's a Tulsi cultist, everybody's a sycophant, everybody's this, everybody's that. Bro, the last 8 months has only been you equivocating every single chance you get and making excuses for why you won't hold your candidate as accountable as you expect everyone else to hold Tulsi. And we don't even ask you to do what you do with Tulsi, because you lie on Tulsi quite frequently. But you're going to sit here and insinuate, oh, once somebody's going to crack heads. Guess what? If you haven't noticed, Tulsi will figure out, oh, there's a problem. We need to solve this problem. And so you know what? I liked the Medicare for All bill, and I loved Jayapal's, which is why that's the only bill I co-sponsored. However, after talking to my voters, after talking to the electorate, they want something better, and I believe that I can do it for them. And guess what? If you're hoping that Tulsi is going to introduce a worse version of Medicare for all, boy, you are in some shitty luck, because look at the track record. Off Act is the best. Securing America's elections, the best. Co-sponsored and co-introduced the LGBTQ legislation. It was the Equality Act that would make them protected members of the marginalized group. So under the damn, what's that damn? I'm out. The Civil Rights Amendments. There you go. There'll be a protected class under the Civil Rights Amendments. I'm a black man. Can't believe I forgot that. And that's just a couple of examples. Look at our criminal justice legislation. Dare you to. Go ahead. Once again, her bill to restore the fairness doctrine and fairness of media. So what she's demonstrating is that not only does she understand the root cause, but she does her homework. She studies. She knows her history. She knows what causes the problems. She doesn't only acknowledge the problems, she acknowledges the root of those problems, and then she introduces bills. Not plans. And when Bernie has a fantastic idea, you've never had to worry about Tulsi when it comes to the Yemen bill, for example. Never had to worry about her co-sponsoring that or introducing something similar. The Bezos Act, co-sponsored that with Ro Khanna. Medicare for All with Jayapal, co-sponsored, bragged about that. But when Tulsi introduces the Off Act, Bernie's nowhere to be found. Oh, but let me talk about the Green New Deal instead. When Tulsi introduces the fairness doctrine that she just reintroduced, nowhere to be found. No more Presidential Wars Act. I thought that Trump was insane. Why would you not co-introduce this in the Senate? That's what I thought. He's insane. We hate Saudi Arabia. Stop Financing Terrorism Act is almost directly pointing at Saudi Arabia. Bruh. So when are we going to deal with the root cause of the issues, bro? That's all I'm trying to figure out. We just don't care about that anymore. We cracking skulls, but we don't care about the actual skulls that need to be cracked. How is Bernie going to get anything done if he doesn't even address a few of the issues that Tulsi is addressing, but Bernie refuses to acknowledge, and his supporters, for fear of whatever, it's like they fear that Bernie would be hurt because Tulsi's introducing legislation that Bernie has not, and he has not acknowledged. But if you want your candidate to win, And don't get it twisted. I want to see Bernie win if he is the best person for the job and he runs a fair campaign like I know he will. And he meets the voters and he wins their votes. I would love to see Bernie win almost as much as I would love to see Tulsi win. Almost. I'm a little bit more Tulsi. But he ain't winning if I just witnessed Tim Canova in Broward County, one of the largest electoral precincts in the country, get it stolen from him blatantly. Two election supervisors fired. Brenda Snipes was basically forcibly retired. And not even a single word. Oh, matter of fact, you did say something. Bernie said something about Republicans stealing it, but it was a damn Democrat. Bernie won't even call out that. When Tim Canova, somebody he endorsed, gets the election stolen from him, he sat out. Didn't say anything about it. And if you think that Bernie can win Florida in this Democratic primary without Broward, you already made a mistake because everybody there loves Tim Canova. I was on the ground for that man. It's almost like they just flipped the damn number because almost everybody that I've talked to, both times I helped out with Tim Canova's campaign. Oh, I'm definitely voting for Tim Canova. Absolutely. So now you don't like the guy who was endorsed by you, who's fighting the woman who screwed you over. Like that's why people are so upset. Because a guy why didn't you go in there cracking skulls for Tim Canova when he had his election stolen from you? When verified ballots were destroyed. Verified. He won a lawsuit saying his ballots were destroyed. And guess what that means? That means your ballots were destroyed. Who else were they voting for? He didn't go down there and crack skulls for Tim Canova. But Tim Canova is damn sure cracked skulls for Bernie. That's why he challenged Debbie Wasserman Schultz. He didn't go out there cracking skulls for Tulsi. Even though Tulsi's been backing him pretty consistently. But Tulsi has been cracking skulls for Bernie. In the House. Not just rhetorically, but through her bills. That's why I like Tulsi a little bit more for the presidency. So I like her a little bit more than Bernie. Because you're right. I do want somebody that's going to crack skulls. That person is Tulsi. She's proven it. Time again. That's not saying that Bernie will never crack skulls. That's not what I'm saying. But let's be clear. Bernie cracking a couple of skulls is not equivalent to Tulsi cracking skulls everywhere she goes. I want to see the video that you're going to do on his non-response to Julian Assange. You won't do it. What about a silence on Chelsea Manning? You won't do it. Name one leader who allowed whistleblowers to be treated the way we have treated the whistleblowers of the United States, who the left has ever believed was a great leader in any other country. It's not a thing. Because that means if you won't speak up for them now, you're damn sure not going to speak up for them later. And as far as Chelsea Manning and Edward Snowden are concerned, you don't want to know Bernie's response on those two things. And he's not perfect. I'm not asking him to be perfect. But I'm asking for you to recognize it in a fair manner. And if you're worried, we got to tiptoe because people, he might get cheated. I'm telling you now. Tulsi can be cheated. Bernie can be cheated. And we need to be pushing all our candidates left and asking the real questions. And if you'd have done your fucking research on this legislation, you would have been asking the questions. But you didn't. You just took Bernie's word for it because Bernie's believable and Tulsi isn't. Even though Tulsi is the one who gave up her fucking career, basically. You know how infuriating it is to see her? The times I've talked to her, she's so calm about all this shit. Yoga is crazy. But she's so calm about all this. People telling her she lacks integrity. People telling her she's switched up. to defend the man that she gave up her fucking career for. That's who they're defending. Well, Bernie would do this. Bernie has more integrity. Bernie will fight for us. I'm not saying Bernie would not fight for you. But how fucking dare you insinuate that Tulsi would do anything less than put whoever the hell she had to face down in the dirt if it meant putting the people over this damn corrupt government? When we have bill after bill after bill proving it, after action after action after action. Yeah, Bernie got 40 years of mixed. It's true. A lot of good, a lot of not so good when it comes to foreign policy. But when we're talking about the last 4 years, Tulsi only had like a 12-year, not even a 12-year career. No, 7 years in the legislature. And it took her 2 years to figure out stuff that it took a lot of people forever to figure out. And still haven't figured it out. And she's been on point. In the last 7 years, Tulsi is one of the only ones who figured out the root causes and used her platform to try and address them. One of the only ones. Whether it be with Syria, Standing Rock, election integrity. Bro, you don't get to fucking insinuate that Tulsi ain't here to fight, that she won't crack skulls. Because what? What? You know, like, woo, boy, you something else. You so full of shit. I don't even think they make porta potties in your size, to be completely honest. So with that being said, peeps, I'm out, man. I'm out. I just wanted to debunk that nonsense. Because that's something. Like I said, I was trying to ignore all the other, like, the auxiliary shit with these different people. Oh, Tulsi's waffling on Medicare. She's not. No, she's not. Bernie didn't even introduce a better version of Jayapal's bill when he had the opportunity to. So clearly he does not have monopoly on Medicare for all. Or single payer, as I just explained. So, with that being said, people, always remember, man, more than anything else, for the love of God, find your balance. Peace. Hey, don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you like that segment of Mikasa Sukasa. Also, you can help us upgrade the studio and take this show on the road to cover the on-the-ground politics that you love by clicking on that GoFundMe link in the description and donating literally anything. Anything helps. Also, you can follow us on Rockfin, on Twitter, and on Facebook as well. And hey, more than anything else, people, always remember, find your balance. Peace.